وذكر فإن الذكرى تنفع المؤمنين.
Ali radiallahu anhu just lost the Prophet ﷺ. And now he lost Fatima. And Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu assisted in the washing of her, and he cried frequently at her washing. And Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu had to have the grueling experience of doing what the Prophet ﷺ did with Khadija, which was to actually get in the grave and receive her body and to bury her. And it was extremely difficult on Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu to do so. And Ali actually led the janazah of his wife Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha. And this is going back to the Prophet ﷺ burying Khadija. It feels very similar, right? I mean, that closeness, that tightness between these two. And Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he actually said, nothing exhausted me more in my entire life than the death of my two beloved ones within that short period. I lost the two most important people to me in my life within that very short period. And Ali radiallahu anhu said, everything I've been through in life, battles, wars, khilafah, fitna, all of it, he said, nothing consumed me and took more from me than the death of the Prophet ﷺ and Fatima radiallahu anha in that very small period of time. And this is how you end on a sad note, but there's something to be said about this, that when you read the poem that Ali radiallahu anhu recited at the graveside of Fatima, there's nothing happy about it. There's nothing about it that is hopeful. It's just pain. It's raw pain. When you read what Ali radiallahu anhu said at the graveside of Fatima radiallahu anha, but that shows you that love and that humanity and that rahmah. The Prophet ﷺ said that's the mercy of the heart. That is mercy, right? Remember when his own son died and the Prophet ﷺ was crying and they said, how could you be crying? Wa anta ya Rasulullah? He said, it's rahmah. This is the compassion that Allah puts in our hearts for one another. And so the words of Ali when Fatima died, pure pain. Unfiltered, raw pain. There's nothing else that's given except for pain. It's a very strong poem. He had finished burying her. He stood by her graveside and he recited the following. He said, Mali waqaftu ala al-quburi musalliman. He said, what is wrong with me standing at the graveside saying salam to the one who has passed? Qabr al-habibi falam yarudda jawabi. The grave of my lover, but she's not responding to my greeting. And he calls out and he says, Ahabibu ma laka la taruddu jawabana. My lover, why are you not responding to my salam? Anasita ba'di khullat al-ahbabi. Have you forgotten all of the intimate He said, have you forgotten all of the intimate moments that were shared between the two of us? And then he actually says in this poem, he starts to respond with what Fatima would be saying back to him. And he says, قال الحبيب وكيف لي بجوابكم. My beloved one responded and said, how can I respond to you? وأنا رهين جنادل وترابي. And I've become a prisoner, I've become now consumed by stones and by dirt. And he cried, radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And he responded, again, he's still speaking. He says, أَكَلَ التُّرَابُ مَحَاسَنِي فَنَسِيتُكُمْ. The dirt has consumed my beauty, and that is why I have moved on. وَحُجِبْتُ عَنْ أَهْلِي وَعَنْ أَتْرَابِي. And I've been veiled from my family and my beloved ones. فَعَلَيْكُمُ مِنِّ السَّلَامِ تَقَطَّعَتْ مِنِّي وَمِنْكُمْ خُلَّةَ الْأَحْبَابِ. And so he said, and so she responded and she said, and so my salam back to you and to them, meaning to those that I've left behind. Those intimate moments have now passed. These are painful words. They are raw expressions of death. There is nothing about them that is, we'll meet again in Jannah, nothing about them that I'm okay. It's pure pain, and that is actually an expression of that love, that deep love that Ali radiallahu anhu had for Fatima radiallahu anha. Now, Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu did not go back on his faith. He didn't become, resentful to Allah. He knows the way that this works. He knows the process of death and afterlife. But that doesn't mean that he didn't feel pain. And I think that's actually something that's very important. When we lose our loved ones, we're not expected to not feel pain. Okay? That's not what sabr is. Sabr is not, patience is not to not feel pain and not feel love and not feel that distance when you lose your loved ones. Patience is to not say anything, لا نقول إلا ما يرضي الله, not to say anything except that which is pleasing to Allah, and to use that pain to do good for them. Right? Like the Prophet ﷺ did with Khadija radiallahu anha, visiting her friends, spending on her behalf, maintaining those relationships. That's what it is. And I think it's only befitting that you go through that and you just see it's just love and pain. And Ali is actually, radiallahu anhu, imagining a conversation between him and Fatima at that point. And that's the deep love that he had for her, radiallahu ta'ala anha. Of course, what we know, what the Prophet ﷺ mentioned of the gathering of the souls of the believers, we have no doubt, being that they're both from those promised al-Jannah, that al-Hasan wal-Hussein are Sayyida Shabab Ahl al-Jannah, the masters of the youth of the people of paradise, that they are gathered again in the presence of the Prophet ﷺ in arwah al-mu'mineen, in the realm of the righteous souls. We ask Allah to gather us with them and to allow us to be like them. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to put that love and that mercy in our hearts, and to put that rida with Allah, that pleasure with Allah's decree in our hearts, and to unite us with our families, and to unite us with this blessed family in the highest level of Jannatul Firdaus. Allahumma ameen.